Good morning. Today is Sunday, April 14th, 2024. I woke up very early this morning to call my mother, who lives in Jerusalem. And she said to me, "I'm fine." Went into the safe room. It's fully stocked. "I'm fine." She said, "I heard the loud booms overhead, which means that the missiles were being intercepted, so those booms were good sounds." And she said to me, "How are you?" And I said, I was very worried. I was very worried last night, seeing the missiles coming from Iran, targeting all of Israel, including Jerusalem. And my mom said to me, "Don't be worried. There's nothing to worry about. Don't be worried." Now, that is due to the bravery and excellence of the IDF, the full commitment of Israel's closest allies, and this morning we owe a debt of gratitude to England, to France, to Jordan, who all helped intercept missiles, and especially to the United States. And this is not a political statement, but every single person who cares about Israel must express gratitude to President Joe Biden, who has done more for Israel than any other United States president. And of course, this is due to God's protection. God's protection, which we prayed so sincerely over and over last night and will continue to do. As we said the words of Tehillim, Hinei lo yanum v'lo yishon shomer Yisrael. Behold, the shomer Yisrael, the guardian of Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. We see this now by the light of day. The Shomer Yisrael, the guardian of Israel. Over 300 missiles fired from Iran at Israel. Amazing. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. No casualties. Only minor damage. Allow me to briefly share how two of these elements interact and to demonstrate how this is reflected in some new applications in Jewish law. And I want to share with you part of a fascinating article written by Rabbi Avraham Stav in Israel. And the title of his article is Mitzvot in War. So listen to what he writes. He talks about how on October 7th, many rabbis were asked on that day, which in Israel, of course, was Simchas Torah and Shabbos. And of course, thousands of soldiers were streaming immediately to be able to engage the enemy. Not only soldiers, but volunteers. And of course, in an emergency like that, all of the laws of Shabbos and Yom Tov are set aside. So, of course, they could take their weapons, their ammunition, food, whatever supplies they need. Of course, that's not even a question. But the question arose, it was Shabbos. The question arose, were the men who were rushing to fight, were they allowed to take their tefillin? Now, to look at it from a strict halachic point of view, from the point of Jewish law, it seems problematic because on Shabbos we do not wear tefillin. On Sunday, the next day, they had to wear tefillin, but on Shabbos they did not wear tefillin. And therefore, for that reason, tefillin on Shabbos are muktzah. Muktzah means it's an item we should not handle because it has no use, no purpose for today. And in general, on Shabbos, we don't do anything that prepares for a mitzvah after Shabbos. And as we've discussed this before, even though all the laws of Shabbos are set aside in an emergency, but only the laws that need to be set aside. What do you do with your tefillin? The answer that was given by most rabbis is that they should take their tefillin also. And the reason is because in war, tefillin is not just the mitzvah of tefillin to put on tefillin every morning, every weekday morning. In war, for a religious soldier, tefillin is a necessity. To be able to wrap one's arm and head in the name of God, to be able to find a few moments to disconnect from the reality around oneself, the horrible reality around oneself, and to connect with God, to remember for a moment who you are and before whom you are serving, to connect with God for a moment, that's more than just, in quotation marks, a mitzvah. It's a necessity. He tells the following story. On the Friday night before the ground invasion into Gaza, so the battalion commander was a Druze. So you know, of course, the Druze, so many of them are very loyal and wonderful assets of the IDF. And of course, many of them live in close proximity to Jews. They know about Jewish life. So on that Friday night, the battalion commander, the Druze battalion commander, said to the rabbi at that location, he said, say Kiddush, Friday night Kiddush, but say it over the radio so that everybody can hear. And the Druze commander says, don't talk to me about, is it a biblical prohibition? Is it a rabbinic prohibition? I'm not concerned right now about the prohibition because of the mitzvah of Kiddush. I'm looking at this in terms of the mitzvah of war. On this Friday night, every single soldier needs to hear Kiddush, needs to bless God's name. The rabbinate has ordered in certain circumstances that it is permissible to read from a Torah scroll even when soldiers are in a place that is not enclosed in an eruv. So that means that generally it's not permitted to carry. But the rabbinate has permitted under certain circumstances carrying and reading from a Torah scroll on Shabbos. Because even when it's a regular Torah portion, like Tazria yesterday, and all too often, many of us are not paying as much attention as we should. But it's a moment of spiritual elevation. And when you're fighting in war, and there's danger at every single moment, you need this soul-reviving encounter with God, to hear God's words, to know and remind yourself that God walks among you, especially during war. So, in the group that Rabbi Avraham Stav is serving with, so they have a group of people who, in the off hours, they study Torah together. And one of the things they do is they rotate different people to give a shiur, to teach something to the others. So when it was Rabbi Stav's turn, he presented the following dilemma and discussed it. And the dilemma goes like this. He had done a very long shift, and it lasted into the early morning hours. It was very difficult. He was tired to his bones. And when he finally got to his sleeping bag to be able to sleep, he had the following question. Should I set my alarm to be able to wake up in just a couple of hours, to daven shachris, to be able to pray with a minyan, because there's a minyan every day, even in Gaza? Or, if I do that, I'm going to be tired for the rest of the day. Maybe I should sleep a little bit longer in order to fulfill the mitzvah of being able to be effective in battle. Not because I want to take it easy on myself, but maybe because I'm involved in the mitzvah of war that should exempt me in order to have my rest so that I can fight better. Okay, it's an interesting question. He raised this question and he discussed some sources in the Talmud, what the rules should be. Later that day, after he finished later, one of the people who was listening to the shiur came over to him. He said, listen, I understand what you're getting at, and I may even agree that your reasoning is sound, but I just don't understand one thing. What does it matter if Jewish law says I should get up for minyan or should not get up for minyan? In the middle of a war, after fighting a very difficult battle and looking forward to an even more difficult battle, there's no way I'm not going to get up in the morning to daven with a minyan. Of course, I need to daven with a minyan. It's not a question of does the halacha exempt me. I need to get to prayer first and foremost for myself, to ground myself, to prepare myself. Now, obviously, this is only one of several layers of the significance of doing mitzvos. But Rabbi Stav writes, this war opened a new channel for me to connect with our religious world. I look at my duties and halachic habits with new eyes, because he's writing that mitzvos, he's saying, mitzvos give me strength. Give me the opportunity to connect with God, to remember why and for whom we are fighting, and to always remember the one who is helping us. Every single member of the IDF is a hero. Religious, secular, doesn't matter. Every single one. But religious soldiers have a special message for us to emulate. The mitzvos that they are able to observe alongside their military duties now have a sharpness to them, an impact they may never have felt before. And every single one of us, those privileged to protect Israel directly, and those of us who try to help and support from afar, should strive for this level of connection. And we should always remember what they teach us. Esa enai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. I lift my eyes to the mountains and I ask this question, from where will my help come? Ezri me'im Hashem, Ose Shemayim V'aretz. My help comes from God, creator of heaven and earth. May God continue to be a Shomer Yisrael, a guardian of Israel, who neither sleeps nor slumbers. And may the Jewish people around the world again soon know peace. My friends, I wish you a good day. I urge you to join me in continuing to pray for Israel and for all of us. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.